Welcome, my friends. Welcome. It is Wednesday, the 21st day of July 2010. Coming up in the third hour, we have some guests dealing with the depression that has been engineered, not just here in the United States, but worldwide. And I wanted to pull up some statistics and numbers to cover in the last hour, dealing with the fact that many university studies estimate between 5 and 7+ million people starved to death during the decade-long Great Depression. That with a population that was 90% rural, and most of that 90% being self-sufficient. We now have 90% being urban, and of the 10% that are rural, less than half are estimated to be completely self-sufficient. This is the problem with the domesticated society we live in, and all the luxuries like toilets, running water, electricity, modern medicine that we take for granted. All of those are wonderful developments that were developed and discovered by our forebears, with inventions from Japan to the United States that have been developed in the last 200 years. But through this system of a high-tech society, we become very, very soft and also very, very disconnected from the land and reality. And that has allowed a level of domestication, a level of dumbing down from basic facts of life, and a softness that we've never seen in human experience. And with that softness, we see a more intense version of what happened in other decadent societies. Rome during its decline, starting, 40-something years even before the birth of Christ, with Julius Caesar, right through to its fall in the 400s, we see that when societies become decadent and lovers of corruption, lovers of death, lovers of evil, that the more decadent people get, the more corrupt and murderous they become. And the more callous they become and the less feeling and the more self-centered you become, the more that allows society to even accelerate its collapse. Once societies have become wealthy, they always then begin to slouch towards Gomorrah and disintegrate. And any time a society says there is no good and evil, and people lose the capacity to judge between what's wholesome and what is destructive, it is an elevator straight to hell, a man-made hell. And I am a student of history. I have found it to be very, well, entertaining when I first got into it at about age 12. Of course, the more I researched history, I found out this wasn't just entertaining, action-packed information I was reading. This was humanity's story. And now I have unfortunately come to the realization that total societal degeneration is being done by design, and that the old system of humanity is being designed to collapse into a high-tech kill grid. And what really concerns me is so many times I will come to a realization about the elite, about the global ruling class and what their aims are from just watching what they're doing on the ground. And then many years later I will read writings by the leading intellectuals of this planetary regime where they talk about the necessary program of dumbing us down so that we can't resist being exterminated. And they believe this is a great hardcore decision they've made and is beautiful in its will, its willingness to do this. But I want to have a larger discussion about that today, cover a lot of news, and take your phone calls. We'll cover it all when we come back. Stay with us.
To the Central Texas Command Center, in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
We're live. It's Wednesday, the 21st day of July, 2010. We have guests coming up in the third hour today to deal with the depression that has been engineered by design. But what I want to do is mix the show up a bit here. I know a lot of you probably been noticing we've been making a lot of changes. I I want to open the phones up on the economy, on the oil leak. Is it really capped? They're saying that it's leaking some and that there's leaks and fissures several miles away, but it's not related to the original leak. I want to get into what's happening with the economy, what's going on in Arizona. Mexico's collapse is accelerating. We're now learning more about Obama and the sweeping financial overhaul bill that has passed, and some more of the things that are in the health care bill that passed, like the tracking and control of gold and other precious metals purchases. There's just a lot of insane news coming out on a daily basis as this quickening intensifies and builds towards a crescendo. The world is changing for the better and the worst. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. But before I get into all of this news, I want to give the toll-free number out, and in the first hour give new callers a chance because so many people are never able to call in. So I want to give first-time callers a chance. That means if you've been on hold before when the show ends, you've never had a chance to be on the broadcast, and you've got an issue or a question or a comment or you disagree with me, I'd love to hear from you. 1-800-259-9231. 1-800-259-9231 is the toll-free number to join us. The top story that I will hit later in the hour after I've gone to some of your calls just went live at prisonplanet.com. And the headline is, False Flag Cyber Attack Could Take Down the Internet. And this story is multifaceted. We had a caller on the broadcast who said, Alex, starting last Friday and through Tuesday, on Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you've given out key search terms like Obama deception censored, Google spies, and now Google launches. And all four of those terms have become the #1 search trend. Not Lindsay Lohan, not Mel Gibson, not even the BP oil spill. And the way Google Trends works is if you're in the top 10 or so, generally that's going to stay in there for a few days. We know Google's been censoring these. It's very elementary, and I went in and read there's algorithm rules in the last few days, and what we had already known about it was correct. They claim that you will be searchable if you're in the top several thousand search terms. So there's no way that these four terms have gone to #1 on Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Each day we launched a search term, the first being Obama deception, the second being Obama deception censored, the third being Google spies, and the next being Google launches cover-up of Google spies. We know they are erasing it because it goes to #1, and other search terms that are #1, #2, #5, #10, #15, they move back and forth all day. Our four search terms go to #1 and then just completely disappear. And when you search those terms, it says, no data to produce a graph. No searches found for this term. Now, that's impossible. You don't have something at the top of the search engine and then it's just not found. It doesn't go from #1 to 0, not existing instantaneously. So it's just total fact, common sense that is indeed happening. As I saw some of the comments on the Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com story by Steve Watson yesterday about Google launches cover-up of Google spies story. I also noticed that it was in the top 10 2 days ago, the Washington Post story that was one of the major stories in the nation about the United States of spies and about how there's 850+ thousand highest-level private corporate spies that gives them unfair trade advantage, gives them control. They are literally taking over the government. That was disappeared. I noticed that was #9. Our search was #1 on Monday. And then I searched a few hours later, and it said no search found, 0. So they're not just censoring Obama deception censored, Google spies, Google launches cover-up. I guess they could argue, well, you had people doing that, so we're saying it's not a real search. I mean, they haven't said that publicly, but I could see them doing that. But still, that's a form of censorship. But to say that the headline out of the Washington Post that was all over the national news and is all over the news today, to have that disappear without a trace, this is another window into how the establishment decides what it wants to be the top trends. They're not disappearing Lindsay Lohan. They're not disappearing Mel Gibson. They're not disappearing Vandersloot. They're not disappearing things like that. They are disappearing